So first bit of news that came out within the last week is as of February 20th, 2025, Rhino Runtime is deprecated. Scripts running on Rhino will continue to function until January 31st, 2026, after which they will no longer be executed. Please migrate your scripts to the V8 runtime before this date. Refer to migrate scripts to the V8 runtime link here, which we'll get into in a moment. I believe, from memory, the V8 engine came out for Google Apps Script around February of 2020. And was a huge update to the overall service, improving speed in many situations. Let's look at what it says here for this migrate scripts. So you know. So if you've got any scripts that you have written pre-2020 or February of 2020, then they may be in Rhino and they may fail to work after January 31st, 2026. So we've got an update here. This page has been around for quite some time, just with a small updates to it, I guess, over time. So again, it says the Rhino runtime is turning down on the 31st of January 2026. We need to migrate those scripts. Often the only prerequisite to adding V8 syntax and features to a script is enabling V8 runtime. However, there is a small set of incompatibilities and other differences that can result in the script failing or behaving unexpectedly in V8 runtime. As you migrate a script to use V8, you must search the script projects for these issues and correct any you find. Okay, so there's a couple of things that's going to be challenging for you to update your scripts or find your Rhino scripts. If you, let's have a look at our sample. There it is. Magic. Okay. So this, for example, might be your scripts. The only very simple way of identifying if your scripts are in V8 runtime might be just to use this last modified button here and predate all the way back. This is a relatively new account, and this is my tester account, so there isn't anything before then. But in some of my older accounts, there are some Rhino scripts available. Now, if we, let me see. Let's just create a new script so you can see where we could find it. So if we went script, new, script.new or scripts.new? No, script.new. And then generate a new script. Or I suppose we could have gone new project there. And then head down to project settings and then show Apps Script JSON. So there's nothing in here. So there is something here, I should say, that identifies if we have the V8 engine runtime running. And we can see this here, enable Chrome V8 runtime. So I guess a good searching approach might be to go through each one of your scripts by last modified. So that predate, perhaps February 2020, open them up, which we know is quite slow, and then have a look at this V8 runtime here. Okay, another thing we could do is also have a look at Apps Scripts JSON. Why would we do this as opposed to just looking at this? Well, let's have a look once we've enabled that. So now if we go back to our editor, we can see in the Apps Scripts JSON that there is a runtime version here. Now, if you are inclined, we could take advantage of the Google Apps Script API then to iterate over any of your projects that predate February 2020, looking for the file data that contains this Apps Script JSON with runtime version V8. So let's just have a quick look at that. So if we want script, what is it? Google Apps Script API. Apps Script API, here it is here. Okay, so this manages and executes Google Apps Script projects. It's basically the foundation of what Clasp is used for when we download our Apps Script projects locally. So what can it do? So we can list a bunch of processes, so what's running. So we might be able to iterate through all those scripts that are currently running, and then have a look at the appscript.json file and look at what the runtime is. If it says Rhino, then we're going to save the URL to that project. We can get the content, so it gets the content of the script project. So let's just highlight that and maybe zoom in. That's too much. Okay, here we go. Gets the content of the script project, including the code source and metadata for each script file. So then, essentially, once we've gone through our list, we want to get the content of that data and then find that JSON file with the runtime type in it. So that might be your best automated approach to finding out what is which files are running on Rhino currently and which ones are running on the V8 engine. All right, let's have a look at some more details. Okay, so migrate procedures. So here's what we need to do next. So carefully review the following incompatibilities. Okay, what are the incompatibilities? Not a lot from memory. So incompatibilities. The original Rhino-based AppScript runtime unfortunately permitted several non-standard ECMAScript behaviors, so non-JavaScript behaviors. Since V8 is standard compliant, these behaviors aren't supported after migration. Failing to correct these issues results in errors or broken script behavior once the V8 runtime is enabled. Cool. Avoid for each. So this is a weird one, for each here. Okay, so prior to that, I don't think the for each method was in there with the old Rhino runtime running on, I think it was ECMAScript 5, perhaps? Ah, there we go. Statement was added to JavaScript 1.6 and removed in favor of for of. So, okay, so that was the difference. Instead, use the variable, use for bracket or braces variable in object. So these are two options here. Okay. So we had for each, blah, 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 blah. Don't forget, you've also got the functional programming for each method, which takes a function and allows you to iterate over, and that's available in the V8 engine. Okay, so the next one is avoid date prototype get year. In the original runtime, date prototype get year returns 2-digit year for the years from 1900 to 1999. But 4-digit years for other dates, which was the behavior of JavaScript 1.2 earlier. In the V8 runtime, date get year returns the year minus 1900 instead, as required by ECMAScript standards. Okay, cool. So we can get year and get full year, I think is the new version that's commonly used today anyway. Which will be the 4-digit regardless of the date. Okay, reserved keywords. ECMAScript prohibits the use of certain reserved keywords in function and variable names. The Rhino runtime allows many of these words, so if your code uses them, you must rename your function. So reserved keywords are here. I think there's much. I think it says here, common use of keywords. So the class was introduced at that time. Import and export was introduced. The promises and async, although they're not all that valid in AppScript V8. Avoid reassigning const variables. Okay. Didn't even know const was available in Rhino. There you go. In the original Rhino runtime, you can declare a variable using const, which means the value of the symbol never changes and future assignments to the symbol are ignored. In the new V8 runtime, the const keyword is standard is standard compliant and assigning to a variable declared as const results in a type error assignment to constant variable runtime error. Okay, so what happened here? So const x equals 1, yeah. And they're changing the variable x equals 2, there's no error. So it's just that was a place marker in the old Rhino. But with V8 engine, const is actually static. And then if you do change it, you'll get an error. Okay, that's fine. All right, so that's probably something important to notice. You should be doing that anyway. Okay, XML literals and XML objects. Okay, this non-standard extension to ECMAScript allows Apps Script projects to use XML syntax directly. Oh, I remember this, yep. When migrating your script to V8, avoid using direct XML literals or XML objects. So what do we have here? Instead use XML service, which we've been using ever since. Yep. So XML service pass, and there it is, use. As opposed to, what do we have here? Incompatible XML1. And then we had those literals there for the XML literals. Oh, yep. And then we could create a new constructor of that and put that in an XML. But now just XML service and you run that. Yep, fair enough. Don't build custom iterator functions using iterator. Oh, do I remember that? That's fuzzy. JavaScript 1.7 added a feature to allow adding a custom iterator to any class by declaring iterator. Oh, is this in the HTML? No. An iterator function in that class's prototype. Oh, okay. Should have read everything through. This was also added into Apps Script Rhino Runtime as a developer convenience. However, this feature was never part of the ECMAScript standard and was removed in ECMAScript compliant JavaScript engines. Scripts using V8 can't use this iterator construction. Yeah. Following code examples show how an iterator could be constructed in Rhino Runtime and how to construct a replacement iterator in the V8 runtime. So we've got a function here, array iterator. So this array, this current index is 0. Array iterator, so there's a next. Turn this, yep. And then we had my array.iterator, so it gives you the next has next methodology here. Function return new array iterator, which is this, with this appended iterator next item in here. And then we went for item in my array, and then it would log this item here. Okay. Then in the new runtime, in V8, how would we change this? We've got our same loop. Yep. So same loop, and then, yeah, so for in doesn't expect an iterable, but we've got of here, which will expect an iterable. So up the top, what's changed is we've got my array symbol.iterator function is equal to current index and then array this, yeah. And we'll return the property next, which is a function. So it's getting to this stage here. If the current index is less than the array length, return the value. So next value, current index is equal to array current index. And this feels like a template literal. That should be in template literals, right? Am I wrong here? So that should be in here instead. So it should be backticks instead of double quotation. Or am I crazy? Okay, so current index here, and then plus the array current index, so the counter here. So we're adding 1 to the counter, and done false. Else return done true. Okay, fairly makes sense. I mean, of course, I don't suspect a lot of people are going to be using that anyway, or had used that. Okay, avoid conditional catch clauses here. So the V8 runtime doesn't support catch if conditional catch clauses, as they are not standard compliant. So we're going to use try and catch instead. So try, we're going to do something. If it fails, then we're going to catch it. And in the old Rhino, you could say catch E, so the error, if the error is an instant of type error. But here we just need to say, if we fail our do something, we're going to log our error. So if the E error is an instance of type error, do the thing. I mean, this is much cleaner anyway. Okay, next one. Avoid using object prototype to source. I can't even remember that. 1.3 contained object prototype to source method that was never part of ECMAScript standard. It is not supported in the V8 runtime. When migrating a script to V8, remove the object prototype to source. Other differences. Okay, so the date method to locale string, to locale date string, and to locale time string behave differently in V8 runtime as compared to Rhino. Really? In Rhino, the default format is the long format, and any parameters passed are ignored. Okay, so we've got a date, console log event to locale date string. And what's changed? Ignoring the parameters passed in. Oh, so these are ignored? Oh, that's strange. Okay, so it only accepted the actual locale, not the format. Oh, yeah, because then it said it's only the long format it was displaying. Yeah. Okay, avoid using error.filename, error.line number. So in JavaScript, the standard error object doesn't support file name or line number as constructor parameters. Well, that's kind of sad because that's pretty cool. You could display the line number and the file for your own custom errors. Ah, man. Okay, when migrating an alternative use area prototype stack, this stack is also non-standard but supported by in V8. The format of the stack trace produced by the two platforms is slightly different. Okay, but then you're importing something, I believe, and it would slow it down. Error prototype stack. Is that what they mean? Let's have a look. Oh no, you could it's still included. Okay, adjust handling of stringified enums. In the original Rhino runtime, using JavaScript JSON.stringify method, on an enum object only returns an empty object. In V8, using the same method on an enum object returns the enum name. Does it? Okay. Well, that's kind of handled when you're doing comparisons. So if something equals something, then the enum name is returned. Adjust handling of global this. Let's have a look at that one. The Rhino runtime defines an implicit special context for scripts that use it. Script code runs in this implicit context, distinct from the actual global this. This means that references to the global this in the code actually evaluate to the special context, which only contains the code and variables defined in the script. The built-in Apps Script service and ECMAScript objects are excluded from this use of this. This situation was similar to this JavaScript structure. In the V8, the implicit special context is removed. Global variables are and functions defined in the script are placed in the global context beside the built-in Apps Script services and ECMAScript built in, like math and date. Yeah. So function, my function, then we've got our details here. This one, logs, an array that includes the name of Apps Script services. Oh, we still got our code up from the other one. I'll try that. Looks cool. Where was it? Go back. Ooh, that's cool. Okay, didn't even know they existed. How about that? So it logs an array that includes the names of Apps Script services, calendar app, Gmail app, etc. And this one logs an array that includes the same value as above and also includes ECMAScript built-ins like math and date. Yep, so we've got all those in here. Oh, yep, and then we've got the inclusion of the Gmail app. This one's just only logging my globals, my function. So these are the global functions here. So that's not true. Look, we'll prove it. Comment it out. And we can see that's this one. So object keys this only log the global names that are here. So it'd be my function, my globals. If I had const chicken, okay, and we run it again, we would see that in our top array, or we should do. Was it before or after the function has been called? Is chicken here? I don't know. Set it as a variable. Set it as a variable to allow for hoisting, and then we've got it in the global context. Hey, we learned something extra then. So as we know, constants aren't hoisted, nor is the let variable, so they won't be hoisted up into the global. So you need to add the var variable here to have it hoisted into the global context. Now, there we go. We learned an extra bit here that we didn't expect. That was fun. Okay. Adjust handling of instance of in libraries. Using instant of in a library on an object that is passed as a parameter in a function from another object can give false negatives. In the V8 runtime, a project and its libraries are run in different execution contexts and hence have different globals and prototypes chains. Yes. Although they still reference the main project, right? Note that this is only the case if your library uses instant of on an object that is not created in your project. So if instance of is created in a library, then this is when the issue occurs. Using it on an object that is created in your project, whether it is the same or a different script inside your project, should work as expected. Okay, so project A is calling project B from a library, I guess. Yeah, so yeah, as a library, yep. So it incorrectly returns false when they return date instance of date, because it'll be returning the date of the project in project B, which could have a different date timestamp. So if you have a look over here, as you might remember, we can set the time zone to whatever we want, and that project might have its own time zone. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I think that's covered. Just passing of non-shared resources to libraries. Passing a non-shared resource from the main script to a library works differently in V8 runtime. Non-shared resource. Okay. In the Rhino runtime, passing a non-shared resource won't work. The library uses its own resource instead. This is kind of important, the library stuff, I think, because in many cases you may have up-to-date code for your projects, but you're relying on a library that's in the Rhino runtime. So then you'll have to check. How would you check the library if you don't have actual access to it? Well, you would hope that someone's got a GitHub or a Git available public Git of the project, so you can check the runtime, I guess. Anyway, okay, so passing non-shared resources from the main script to a library works differently in V8 runtime. In Rhino runtime, passing a non-shared resource won't work. The library uses its own resource instead. In V8 runtime, passing a non-shared resource to the library works. The library uses the pass non-shared resource. Do not pass non-shared resources as function parameters. Always declare non-shared resources in the same script that uses them. Consider project A and B, where project A uses project B as a library in this example. Yeah, very important for property service here. Okay, yep. All right, let me try and clear this up. So we're sitting in project A here, and we've got test passing non-shared properties. The property service gets script set properties project A. And then we've got, so B is the name of the library. They've creatively called it. And they're going to set script properties. How did they get B at that stage? Where was B drawn from? So many questions. Oh, okay, so, there we go. B set script properties is just a function inside B. And then if we log B set script properties, property service, we would get get script properties and property service project. And that would print project B here. Because when we hit get script properties here, we set properties to project, and that project property name is project B. Okay, yep. All right, moving over to the V8. Project B has similar issues here. So project B set properties, property service get script properties, set property, project B here. But if we go up here, property service get script properties, set properties, project A, that should then update this to project A here. And then B set script properties. I don't know, to me it seems like it should overwrite. Okay, let's investigate this further. So B set script properties is going to call this but it's saying in V8 runtime, passing a non-shared resource to a library, the library uses the passed non-shared resource. So when we log the B library, get script properties, and it requires properties, project, that should display project A because it's not reading the B set here. Pass the non-shared resource to the library works because this has been passed through. Honestly, I feel that this needs to be removed, and then you would run property service get script properties, set properties, and then test with b.getScriptProperties for that project, and that should display it. But if this is in the middle, then it's still going to update the shared resource here, right? With project B. That would be my guess. Maybe something in the example feels wrong there. Okay, so update access to standalone scripts. Last bit. For standalone scripts running on V8 runtime, you need to provide users at least view access to the script in order for the script to trigger script's triggers to work properly. Yeah. So that wasn't available in runtime? I can't remember now. You could do that without sharing? There you go. Okay. All the way back here. So we did the incompatibilities. Carefully review the following other differences. There's more. Did we cover this already? Yes. Okay. Relax. We've covered it. Super efficient us. Okay, and then once you have corrected any discovered incompatibilities or other differences, you can begin updating your code to use V8 syntax and other features. After finishing your code adjustments throughout, thoroughly test your script to make sure it behaves as expected, of course. If your script is a web app or published add-on, you must create a new version of the script with the V8 adjustment. All right, so all they're saying here is you need to go into deploy and I think create a new deployment. And that, with the new deployment, it'll give you a new, let's just open it up so you can see. Web app, for example, it's going to give you a new ID once you hit deploy. And then you can share that URL, that new URL. Or if you've got it as an add-on, you'll have to share the new ID for the add-on. Cool. And then it discusses incompatibilities, which we've already been through because we're Jets. All right, that was exhaustive, but I hope we've covered most of that and clarified some of the things in the changes should you need to make those changes. Cool.